Introduction. The Zakat Institute are the one responsibility for managing the manager and collect of zakat. It is expanded will play a critical role in Islamic socio-economy. In Malaysia, all Islamic funds include zakat manager are managed by the Majlis Agama Islam or the State Islamic Region Council SIRC. The zakat will be collected and distributed according to guidelines and the possible by the Sharia. Problem statement. The use of the Sharia in Islamic financial is important to make sure that we will be free with element that was prohibited by the Quran. Heritage is that every transaction made in Islamic financial will be include which any of rules that state by Sharia or Islamic jurisprudence. It must be understood clearly before it's been applied in any Islamic transaction. Transparency is so crucial that will every give greater effort on Zakat Institute transparency. This is because the level of the transparency has a great impact on their performance. Having a lack of a transparency is in the management of the Zakat Institute rules in the performance of the Zakat Institute become low in the end. Background of the study. Islamic financial growth as a result of the Islamic value is a project and the benefit that people had in this value. It's combined, it had origin principle which the financial service. The main factor that has been submitted to the growth of the Islamic financial over the past few decide in the branch of Islamic financial and the benefit in the accompany it. However, it's how much do the customer Islamic of financial institute IFS refer to value as a value which the Islamic financial in their business operation and financial service. The aspect to the will IFIS are transparency with customer on a current issue, fact the Islamic. Research objective to study UMK student perspective region Islamic financial transparency. Second, to study the importance of zakat transparency among UMK students. To examine with awareness among UMK students regarding the zakat transparency in Islamic financial. Research question. What are the UMK student perception regarding Islamic financial transparency? What are the importance of the zakat transparency among the UMK student? And the third, we have how does the UMK student aware about zakat transparency in Islamic financial?
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Sahira binti Nilah. My metric number is A18B1222. Okay, for my part is hypothesis. Hypothesis 1. There is a significant positive relationship between the UMK students' perceptions regarding the transparency towards zakat institution. Hypothesis 2. There is a significant positive relationship between the students' perceptions of accountability towards the transparency of zakat institutions. Hypothesis 3. There is a significant positive relationship between the intentions of University Malaysia Kelantan students towards the transparency of zakat institutions. Lastly, hypothesis 4. There is a significant positive relationship between the UMK students' trust regarding the transparency toward the zakat institution. Okay, we move to the next part, which is theoretical framework. The title, Conceptual Framework on the Implication of Transparency in Islamic Finance towards zakat institutions among UMK students. Transparency in zakat institution among UMK students. The proposed study consists of theory, reason, action, which is TRA, The section presents a concept-usual framework which includes two main variables, which is independent variable, the awareness among UMK regarding zakat transparency. Firstly, perception of transparency. Second, perception of accountability. Third, intention, and lastly, trust. Okay, for dependent variable, the implication on the transparency in Islamic finance towards zakat institutions, which is research design. Firstly, to examine the awareness among the UMK students regarding the zakat transparency. Second, this research we will use the primary data collection, that is the quantitative data analysis. Third, this part we will choose the students of University Malaysia Kelantan to carry out the empirical study. Lastly, the study is based quantitative because we want to determine the relationship between variables and hypotheses of this research. Okay, next, we move to the next part, which is data collection method. Okay, for data collection method, we choose quantitative data collection method, where we will use questionnaire and distribute them to the respective respondents. The questionnaire material is related to the analysis of both independent and dependent variables of our research. Next, it also to make it easier for the distributions, the questionnaire will be in Google Form survey. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fazema binti Muhammad Rizwan. Now I will present the next slide about population. Population can refer to whole groups of people, objects, events and measurements. It can be aggregate experiment of subject groups together by a common feature. The study population is comprised of UMK students. The reason why this study is focused on UMK students are due to the lack of exposure about the implication of transparency in Islamic finance toward zakat institutions surrounding them. There are variety aspects that focus on this study, that is the understanding of perception, transparency and awareness of the among the UMK students regarding zakat transparency in Islamic finance. The next one was sample. For the research on transparency in Islamic finance toward zakat institutions, our sample are focused on SAB students, which is the third year SAB students. The population are collected based on the table of Cressy and Morgan in year 1970. From this sample, we take about 200 respondents for our study because the population of the SAB students are about 870 students. As we can see here, the table shown here is the sample of Cressy and Morgan table. The sample of Cressy and Morgan table. The next slide was about sampling technique. This method employs an explanatory survey to describe the causal relationship between variables under consideration. In the extended time, there are two sampling methods used, that is the probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability choices are based on the non-random series, simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, various sampling techniques, uncertainty scatter sampling, stratified sampling and demand sampling. In this study, we determined to use choice sampling as our choice in order to select the informant. The sample is determined using a probability sampling technique, which means that each member of the population has equal rights and opportunities to be chosen as the sample respondent. The random sampling technique is simple to apply, that is, the sampling was done at random, regardless of the strata present in the population because the population was homogeneous. Other consideration in selecting a sample include lower cost, greater accuracy of results, speed of data collection, and representation of population elements. Determining the sample size is based on representation and population size and is expected to result in a better sample. The next slide was sample. The next slide was research instrument development. The primary data used in this analysis is via research survey questionnaire to collect information from the respondents. The respondents are individuals aged between 22 years old until 25 years old. The aim of this questionnaire is to measure awareness among UMK students regarding zakat transparency in Islamic finance. In this research instrument development, we use two parts, that is part A and part B. The part A consists of demography. We analyze the respondents' individual details based on their demographic questions such as ethnicity, ethnic group, age, marital status, occupation, monthly individual income, and whether the respondents are zakat payers or not. In part B, it consists the dependent variable and independent variables. In this questionnaire, it contained questions that investigate the relationship among people in UMK between perception of transparency, perception in accountability, intention, and trust. In this part, we use the scale which range from 1 strongly disagree, 2 disagree, 3 neutral, 4 agree, to 5 that is strongly agree. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ninur Amirah binti Nifa. I will explain about the measurement of the variables. Nominal scale is used on section A, where we use to gather the data on the biographical details of the respondent, including their age, genders, marital status, education, and also their income. Otherwise, on section B, we use 5 points of Likert scale to determine the level of agreement on how strongly and not strongly of the consumer are of the statement given. The measurement will based on 1 for strongly disagree, 2 is for disagree, 3 is for neutral, 4 is for agree, and 5 is for strong. Next, I will explain about the procedure for data analysis. The data collected through the questionnaire is analyzed by using statistically package for social science. For analyzing the data, an analytical technique and inferential analysis will be conducted by using SPSS to draw the result. We also use Pearson correlation to define and analyze the relationship between the dependent variable and the independent. For Q&A session, why we choose this topic? We choose this topic because we want to know the implication of the transparency in the Islamic finance towards the zakat institution. We also want to know how far UMK students understand about the effect of the transparency towards the zakat institution. By doing this, we hope that we can help more people to know and to understand about the importance of transparency, mostly in zakat. Second question. Why do we choose this methodology to answer our research question? We choose this questionnaire method because the data for our research is quantitative data. The quantitative data is suitable for our research because it can be studied on a large scale since our respondent focus on the student of the University Malaysia Kelantan. So that's all from us. Thank you.